There comes a time in life when you must stop believing that everyone who smiles at you is happy for you. Everyone who stands beside you is standing with you. And everyone who calls you a friend has earned the right to know your heart. Listen to me carefully. Not everybody who has access to you deserves access to you. Not everybody who knows your name needs to know your story. Not everybody who asks about your life is asking because they care. Some people ask because they are collecting information. Some people listen because they are waiting for an opportunity to use what you reveal. Some people celebrate you only when your success does not make them uncomfortable. And if you learn nothing else from this moment, learn this. Trust is not something you owe people. Trust is something people earn. You have to become wiser about who you allow into your life. Because one of the most painful lessons a person can learn is that familiarity does not equal loyalty. Time does not automatically create trust. History does not guarantee character. And being around someone for years does not mean they have good intentions towards you. Some people have known you for 10 years and still do not know how to love you. Some people have known you for 10 days and somehow understand the value of protecting your peace. So stop measuring relationships only by how long they have existed. Start measuring them by how safe, honest, respectful, and consistent they are. Because friendship is not about who has the longest history with you. Friendship is about who has the strongest character when nobody is watching. You must learn to watch people, not obsessively, not suspiciously, not with bitterness, wisely. Watch how someone treats people who cannot benefit them. Watch how they speak about people who are not in the room. Watch how they respond when somebody else succeeds. Watch how they behave when they are angry. Watch what happens when you say no, because a person's character is often revealed when they do not get what they want. Everybody can be kind when life is easy. Everybody can smile when they need something. Everybody can say, "I'm happy for you." But what happens when your success becomes greater than theirs? What happens when you stop being available? What happens when you establish boundaries? What happens when you refuse to participate in something that violates your values? That is when you discover who was truly standing beside you and who was simply standing near you. And I want you to understand something. Becoming careful with trust does not mean becoming cold. You do not need to hate people. You do not need to assume everyone is against you. You do not need to walk through life expecting betrayal around every corner. You simply need wisdom. There is a difference between having a soft heart and having an unguarded heart. Keep your heart soft, but give your trust slowly. Let people demonstrate who they are. Do not hand someone the deepest parts of your life simply because they made you laugh. Do not tell someone your greatest dreams because they showed interest. Do not reveal every wound because somebody asked you why you are quiet. Some things need privacy. Some dreams need protection. Some plans need silence until they have become strong enough to stand on their own. You do not have to announce every move you make. You do not have to explain every decision. You do not have to prove your intentions to people committed to misunderstanding you. There is power in keeping certain things sacred. And sometimes the greatest protection you can give yourself is learning when to remain silent. Because once you tell everybody everything, you lose control over where your story travels. The person you trusted today may become the person who misunderstands you tomorrow. The person who comforted you during your pain may someday use that pain against you. The person who knows your weakness may someday weaponize it. That is why wisdom matters. Trust people in layers. Let them earn deeper access. First, observe their consistency. Then observe their honesty. Then observe their respect for boundaries. Then observe their ability to keep confidence. Then observe how they respond when you are not useful to them. Because anyone can love what you provide. The question is whether they value who you are when you have nothing to offer. That is the test. And you must stop being afraid of failing that test with someone. If somebody walks away because you established a boundary, let them walk. If somebody becomes angry because you stopped allowing disrespect, let them be angry. If someone disappears because you are no longer available for their convenience, let them disappear. You are not losing a friend when you lose someone who only wanted access to you. You are losing an arrangement. And sometimes losing an arrangement is how you find freedom. Do not chase people who become distant because you started respecting yourself. Do not beg people to understand your worth. Do not keep knocking on doors that God has allowed to close. Sometimes the rejection you are crying over is the protection you will someday thank God for. Sometimes the person you thought you could not live without was the very person keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be. And sometimes loneliness is not punishment. Sometimes loneliness is preparation. You may have to spend a season alone so you can learn the difference between company and connection. You may have to walk alone so you can hear your own thoughts again. You may have to become comfortable without constant attention so you can stop accepting unhealthy relationships simply because silence frightens you. Listen. Being alone is better than being surrounded by people who secretly hope you fail. Peace is better than popularity. Truth is better than approval. And a small circle of genuine people is worth more than a crowd of people who only know your name. Do not be impressed by numbers. 1,000 contacts cannot replace one trustworthy person. A room full of people cannot replace one person who protects your name when you are absent. You need people who can celebrate you without competing with you. People who can correct you without humiliating you. People who can disagree with you without disrespecting you. People who can hear your success without turning it into a comparison. People who can hear your pain without turning it into gossip. Those people are rare. And because they are rare, value them. But do not become desperate to find them. The more desperate you are for friendship, the easier it becomes for the wrong people to enter your life. When you fear being alone, you start negotiating with disrespect. When you fear losing someone, you tolerate behavior you should have walked away from. When you need validation, you start confusing attention with love. That is dangerous. Become so secure within yourself that you can walk away from anybody who repeatedly violates your peace. You should be able to say, I care about you, but I will not abandon myself to keep you. That sentence can change your life. Because you are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live with integrity, and integrity will sometimes make you unpopular. There will be people who misunderstand your silence. Let them. There will be people who call your boundaries arrogance. Let them. There will be people who say you changed. Tell yourself the truth. You grew. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to become more selective. You are allowed to stop giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly mishandle your trust. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to protect your peace without explaining yourself. And please understand this. Forgiveness does not require renewed access. You can forgive someone and still keep your distance. You can wish someone well and still refuse to walk beside them. You can release resentment without reopening the door. That is wisdom, because forgiveness is about freeing your heart. Trust is about deciding who gets access to it. Those are not the same thing, so trust wisely. Look beyond words. Look at patterns. People tell you who they are through repetition. If they repeatedly lie, believe the pattern. If they repeatedly disrespect you, believe the pattern. If they repeatedly disappear when you need them, but appear when they need you, believe the pattern. If they repeatedly make you question your worth, believe the pattern. Stop making excuses for behavior that keeps hurting you. You cannot love somebody into becoming trustworthy. You cannot sacrifice enough to make somebody loyal. You cannot be good enough to make someone honest. Character is a choice they must make for themselves. Your responsibility is not to change them. Your responsibility is to choose wisely. And as you become wiser, you may discover that your circle gets smaller. Do not panic. A smaller circle can mean a stronger life. You do not need everybody. You need truth. You need peace. You need people who can sit beside your silence without demanding that you perform. People who can see you at your weakest and still treat you with dignity. People who do not need you to shrink so they can feel tall. People who do not need you to fail so they can feel successful. People who can say, I am proud of you, and actually mean it. Those people exist. But you will recognize them more clearly when you stop giving your trust to everybody. So from this day forward, stop rushing intimacy. Let time reveal character. Let consistency reveal intentions. Let adversity reveal loyalty. Let boundaries reveal respect. And let silence reveal who only stayed because you were constantly giving them attention. You do not need to announce that you are becoming wiser. Just become wiser. Move differently. Listen more. Observe more. Speak less about your private life. Protect what matters. And never confuse kindness with permission. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can love people and still leave them. You can have compassion without giving everybody access. You can believe in people without depending on all of them. And you can walk through this world with a loving heart and discerning eyes. That is the balance. Do not let betrayal make you bitter. Let it make you wiser. Do not let disappointment convince you that nobody is good. Let it teach you that good people must be recognized by character, not appearances. Do not build walls around your heart. Build doors, and learn who deserves a key, because your life is precious, your peace is precious, your dreams are precious, your time is precious. And every person you allow close to you influences the atmosphere of your life. So choose carefully. Choose people who bring truth instead of confusion. Choose people who bring peace instead of constant drama. Choose people who respect your boundaries instead of testing them. Choose people who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. Choose people whose presence makes you more yourself, not less. And above everything else, trust God enough to understand that you do not need to force relationships. The right people will not require you to betray yourself just to keep them. The right people will not punish you for having boundaries. The right people will not make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. And when the wrong people leave, do not always ask, why did they leave me? Sometimes ask, why did I finally stop holding them? There is a difference. Your life becomes lighter when you stop trying to convince people to value what they continually mishandle. So walk forward. Keep your heart open. Keep your eyes open wider. Love deeply. But trust wisely. Give kindness freely. But give access carefully. Forgive when you can. But remember what wisdom taught you. And never be ashamed of becoming more selective about who gets to walk beside you. Because the goal is not to have everybody. The goal is to have what is real. And when you finally understand that, you will stop fearing the empty seats around you. You will stop chasing disappearing people. You will stop begging for loyalty. You will stop explaining your worth. You will become comfortable with your own company. And from that place of strength, you will recognize the people who come into your life not because they need something from you, but because they genuinely value who you are. Those are the people worth keeping. Those are the people worth honoring. Those are the people worth trusting. There comes a moment in your life when you realize that keeping everyone is not the same thing as being loved, and being surrounded is not the same thing as being connected. There comes a moment when you look at the relationships you have fought to preserve, the people you have made excuses for, the disrespect you tolerated, the boundaries you ignored, and the parts of yourself you sacrificed just to keep somebody close. And you finally ask yourself a question that can change everything. What did I lose trying so hard not to lose them? And sometimes the answer is you. You lost your peace. You lost your confidence. You lost your voice. You lost your ability to say no without feeling guilty. You lost the freedom to be yourself because you became so focused on keeping somebody else comfortable that you stopped asking whether you were comfortable in your own life. Listen to me. Never abandon yourself to keep anyone. Not a friend, not a partner, not a family member, not someone you have known for 20 years, not someone who tells you that you are their whole world. Because the moment you have to destroy your own identity to preserve a relationship, that relationship is already costing you more than it should. Love should not require you to disappear. Friendship should not require you to betray your values. Loyalty should not require you to accept humiliation. And trust should never mean handing someone permission to repeatedly hurt you while you stand there calling it patience. There is a difference between loving someone and losing yourself inside them. There is a difference between compromise and self-abandonment. There is a difference between understanding someone's imperfections and continually making excuses for behavior that is destroying your peace. You need to know that difference. Because some of the greatest pain in life does not come from people leaving. Sometimes the greatest pain comes from staying too long where you were slowly becoming someone you did not recognize. You kept quiet because you did not want an argument. You said yes because you did not want them to be disappointed. You forgave too quickly because you were afraid they would leave. You accepted less because you thought asking for more would make you difficult. You stopped expressing your needs because they always made you feel like your needs were a burden. You became smaller because somebody else could only feel comfortable when you were beneath them. And little by little, without realizing it, you started abandoning yourself. You told yourself it is okay, but it was not okay. You told yourself they will change, but they did not. You told yourself I can handle it, but you were exhausted. You told yourself I just need to be more understanding. But understanding became an excuse for tolerating what should have been confronted. And one day you looked in the mirror and realized that you had been protecting a relationship that was not protecting you. That realization hurts. But it can also set you free because wisdom begins when you stop asking only, how do I keep them? And start asking, how do I keep myself? That is the question. How do I keep myself? How do I keep my dignity? How do I keep my peace? How do I keep my values? How do I keep my voice? How do I keep the person I fought so hard to become? You must understand that you are responsible for protecting the person you are becoming. Nobody else can do that for you. People will tell you what they want. People will tell you what they need. People will tell you what they expect. But you must also listen to what your own spirit is telling you. You cannot spend your entire life making everybody else comfortable while your own heart is screaming for relief. There is no medal for being the person who tolerated the most disrespect. There is no prize for staying in relationships that continually destroy your confidence. There is no honor in proving how much pain you can endure. Strength is not always staying. Sometimes strength is knowing when to leave. Sometimes strength is saying, I love you, but I cannot continue like this. Sometimes strength is saying, I forgive you, but I will not give you the same access again. Sometimes strength is saying, I understand your reasons, but your reasons do not erase the impact of your behavior. Sometimes strength is simply saying no and refusing to explain yourself for the next 3 hours. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your boundaries. A boundary is not an attack. A boundary is information. It tells people where your responsibility ends and theirs begins. And people who genuinely respect you will learn your boundaries. They may not always agree with them. They may not always understand them, but they will respect them. The people who become furious every time you establish a boundary are telling you something. Listen, when your no causes someone to reveal a side of themselves you had never seen, believe what you are seeing. When your independence makes someone angry, ask yourself why. When your growth makes someone uncomfortable, pay attention. When your silence makes someone accuse you of changing, remember that perhaps you are changing, and perhaps that change is necessary. You cannot become healthier while constantly protecting unhealthy dynamics. You cannot grow while spending every day trying to convince someone to accept the version of you that is finally becoming whole. You cannot build a peaceful life while constantly negotiating with chaos. There will be people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. When you finally develop boundaries, they may call you selfish. Do not panic. Sometimes people call you selfish when they are simply upset that you stopped being useful to them. Sometimes they say you have changed because they preferred the version of you that was easier to manipulate. Sometimes they say you are cold because you stopped reacting to their provocations. Sometimes they say you think you are better than everyone because you finally learned to respect yourself. Do not let their interpretation become your identity. Now who you are, now what you believe, now what you will accept, now what you will never accept again, and then live accordingly, because trust should not be blind. Trust should have wisdom behind it. You do not have to distrust everyone. You simply have to stop trusting everyone equally. Not everybody deserves the same access to you. Some people belong in your circle. Some belong at a distance. Some belong in your memories, and some belong nowhere near your future. That does not make you cruel. That makes you discerning. Think about a house. You can welcome people into the living room without giving them the keys to every room. You can be kind without revealing every secret. You can love someone without telling them every dream you have. You can care about somebody without allowing them to control your decisions. You can be available without being constantly accessible. You can forgive without forgetting the lesson. You can trust without surrendering your judgment. That is wisdom. Wisdom does not tell you to close your heart. Wisdom teaches you how to open it responsibly, because your heart is valuable. Your time is valuable. Your attention is valuable. Your emotional energy is valuable. Do not hand those things to people simply because they know how to ask. Watch how they treat what you give them. If you give someone your confidence and they turn it into gossip, learn. If you give someone your vulnerability and they use it against you, learn. If you give someone your loyalty and they repeatedly betray it, learn. If you give someone another chance and they repeat the same behavior, learn. Learning is not bitterness. Learning is wisdom. You do not need to hate the person who taught you a lesson. You simply need to remember the lesson. And sometimes the lesson is this: never again will I betray myself just to keep somebody else. Never again will I silence my truth to protect somebody's feelings. Never again will I accept disrespect because I am afraid of being alone. Never again will I confuse someone's need for me with genuine love for me. Never again will I make myself smaller so somebody else can feel bigger. Never again will I abandon myself. Say that to yourself, not with anger. With conviction, because you deserve to have a relationship with yourself that does not collapse every time somebody walks away. You need to become so grounded in who you are that another person's departure does not make you question your existence. People will leave. People will change. People will disappoint you. People will misunderstand you. Some people will choose another path. Some people will betray your trust. Some people will simply grow in a different direction. That is life. But none of those things mean you have to abandon yourself. You can grieve and still remain whole. You can miss someone and still move forward. You can love someone and still recognize that the relationship is unhealthy. You can remember beautiful moments without pretending the painful ones never happened. You can honor what something was without forcing it to remain what it no longer is. This is where maturity begins. Maturity is understanding that not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some relationships are chapters, some are lessons, some are blessings, some are warnings. Some show you what love can look like. Others show you what you must never accept again. But every relationship can teach you something if you are willing to learn. And one of the greatest lessons is learning to stop chasing people who have already chosen distance. You do not have to convince someone to stay. If they need to go, let them go. If they no longer value your presence, do not spend your life proving your worth. If someone repeatedly chooses to misunderstand you, you do not have to become a full-time lawyer defending your character. There comes a point when silence becomes more dignified than explanation. There comes a point when walking away becomes more powerful than arguing. There comes a point when your peace becomes more important than being understood. You must reach that point, because some people will keep pulling you into conversations designed to drain you. They will provoke you, then blame you for reacting. They will disrespect you, then accuse you of being sensitive. They will cross your boundaries, then tell you that your boundaries are unreasonable. They will hurt you, then make you responsible for their discomfort when you respond. Do not live there. You do not have to participate in every battle someone invites you into. You do not have to answer every accusation. You do not have to defend every decision. You do not have to prove that you are a good person to someone committed to seeing you as the villain. Know your heart, know your intentions, know your values, then let your life speak. And if you have made mistakes, own them. Being wise with trust does not mean believing you are always right. It means being humble enough to examine your own behavior, while being strong enough not to accept blame for things that are not yours. There is balance in that. Take responsibility for your mistakes. But do not take responsibility for another person's inability to respect you. Take responsibility for your words, but do not take responsibility for somebody else's assumptions. Take responsibility for your choices, but do not carry the weight of someone else's manipulation. You cannot control how people interpret you. You can control how you live, and that is where your power lives. Your power lives not in the decision to remain true to yourself. Your power lives in the courage to walk away when something violates your values. Your power lives in refusing to trade your peace for temporary approval. Your power lives in knowing that being alone for a season is better than being emotionally abandoned while standing beside someone. There is a loneliness that comes from being alone. And there is another loneliness that comes from being with people who do not see you. The second one can be far more painful because you can be sitting at a crowded table and still feel invisible. You can have hundreds of people around you and still have nobody you trust. You can receive messages all day and still have no meaningful connection. That is why your goal should never be to collect people. Your goal should be to build relationships rooted in truth. You need people who can tell you the truth without trying to destroy you. People who can challenge you without humiliating you. People who can disagree without disrespect. People who can celebrate without competing. People who can correct without controlling. People who can love without possessing. People who can give you space without making you feel abandoned. Those relationships are precious. And when you find them, cherish them. But even then, remember this. Do not make another human being your entire foundation. People are human. They can fail. They can change. They can disappoint. They can leave. Your identity must be deeper than anybody's opinion of you. Your peace must be deeper than anybody's approval. Your faith must be deeper than anybody's presence. Your sense of self must survive changes in your relationships. Because when your entire identity is built around another person, their departure can feel like the destruction of your whole world. Build yourself beyond that. Build a life that still has meaning when someone walks away. Build routines that belong to you. Build dreams that belong to you. Build values that belong to you. Build a relationship with yourself that becomes stronger every year. Know what makes you laugh. Know what gives you peace. Know what you believe. Know what you refuse to compromise. Know what kind of person you want to become. Then when someone enters your life, they become part of your journey rather than the definition of it. That is freedom. And when you are free, you do not cling, you choose. You do not beg, you decide. You do not chase, you observe. You do not desperately ask, how can I make them stay? You ask, does this relationship allow both of us to remain healthy and whole? That is a wiser question, because sometimes you are not supposed to save a relationship. Sometimes you are supposed to save yourself. Sometimes the door closes because you have spent too long standing in a place that was never meant to be your home. Sometimes the friendship ends because you have outgrown the version of yourself that tolerated it. Sometimes the relationship falls apart because you finally stop pretending everything was fine. Do not always interpret an ending as failure. Some endings are rescue. Some endings are redirection. Some endings are the beginning of self-respect. And if you walk away without destroying yourself in the process. Do not spend years replaying every conversation. Do not spend nights wondering what you could have done differently. Do not build a courtroom inside your mind and become both prosecutor and defendant. Learn what you need to learn. Apologize where you were wrong. Forgive where you can, religious what you cannot control. Then keep moving. Your future needs you. Your peace needs you. The person you are becoming needs you. Do not sacrifice that person just to preserve a connection that continually asks you to become less. You have spent enough time trying to be acceptable. Now become authentic. You have spent enough time trying to be understood. Now become clear. You have spent enough time trying to keep everybody. Now learn to keep yourself and understand what that really means. Keeping yourself does not mean becoming selfish. It means remembering that your needs matter. It means remembering that your feelings deserve consideration. It means remembering that your dreams deserve protection. It means remembering that your boundaries deserve respect. It means remembering that your peace is not something you should constantly trade for somebody else's temporary comfort. You can be generous without being available to everyone. You can be loving without being naive. You can be forgiving without being foolish. You can be trusting without being blind. You can be strong without becoming hard. And you can walk away without becoming bitter. That is the kind of strength I want you to build. A strength that does not need revenge. A strength that does not need applause. A strength that does not need to announce itself. A strength that simply knows. Knows when to speak. Knows when to remain silent. Knows when to stay. Knows when to leave, knows when to forgive, knows when to create distance, knows when someone deserves another chance, and knows when another chance would only be another invitation to hurt you. You do not need to become suspicious of everyone. You need to become observant. You do not need to stop loving. You need to stop abandoning yourself in the name of love. You do not need to stop trusting. You need to let trust be earned. You do not need to stop giving. You need to stop giving what destroys you. And you do not need to fear losing people. Fear losing yourself more, because people can be replaced. Opportunities can return. Doors can open again. New friendships can form. New love can arrive. But when you repeatedly betray yourself, rebuilding your relationship with your own heart can take years. So choose yourself. Not from arrogance, from wisdom. Choose yourself when the relationship demands that you become someone you are not. Choose yourself when respect disappears. Choose yourself when your voice is constantly silenced. Choose yourself when your peace is always being sacrificed. Choose yourself when the relationship only works if you are the one doing all the bending. Choose yourself when staying requires you to abandon everything you know to be true. Choose yourself, and let that choice teach you something powerful. The right people will not require you to abandon yourself to keep them. The right people will not ask you to betray your values. The right people will not punish you for becoming healthier. The right people will not need you to remain broken so they can remain comfortable. The right people will meet you where truth lives. They will respect your boundaries. They will honor your growth. They will understand that love does not mean possession. They will know that friendship does not mean control. They will know that closeness does not mean entitlement, and they will never ask you to become smaller so they can remain bigger. So become wise, become discerning, become patient with trust. Let people show you who they are. Do not rush the process. Do not force closeness. Do not ignore patterns because you are attracted to potential. Do not confuse promises with proof. Do not confuse chemistry with character. Do not confuse attention with affection. Do not confuse familiarity with loyalty. Look at what remains when the excitement fades. Look at what remains when you say no. Look at what remains when you are no longer useful. Look at what remains when you succeed. Look at what remains when you struggle. That is where truth reveals itself. And when you discover that someone is not who you thought they were, do not destroy yourself trying to make the old image come back. Accept the truth. Release the fantasy. Honor the lesson. Protect your future, because your future deserves a version of you that knows better, a version of you that no longer begs for crumbs, a version of you that no longer mistakes suffering for loyalty, a version of you that no longer thinks walking away means failure, a version of you that can love someone deeply and still say, I cannot continue this way. A version of you that understands that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is close the door quietly. No revenge, no drama, no endless explanations. Just peace, just distance, just dignity. And as you move forward, remember this every time you feel tempted to betray yourself for someone else's approval. You were not created to spend your life proving that you are worthy of being kept. You are worthy of relationships where your presence is valued without manipulation. You are worthy of friendships where honesty does not come with humiliation. You are worthy of love where vulnerability does not become ammunition. You are worthy of peace that does not depend on another person's mood. You are worthy of a life where you do not have to constantly ask whether you are enough. So trust wisely, love wisely, give wisely, forgive wisely. And above everything else, remain loyal to the person you are becoming. Because when the crowd disappears, you will still have yourself. When the messages stop, you will still have yourself. When the relationship ends, you will still have yourself. When the applause fades, you will still have yourself. And if you have protected your soul, your values, your dignity, and your peace, then you will discover that losing someone does not have to mean losing everything. You can let people leave without letting them take your identity with them. You can close doors without closing your heart. You can walk away without carrying hatred. You can forgive without reopening the same wound. You can trust again without forgetting what betrayal taught you. You can love again without abandoning yourself. And you can finally understand that the safest relationship you will ever build is the one where you refuse to leave yourself behind, just because somebody else decided they wanted you to stay.